Imagine returning home after 3 years away to find your entire family gone. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just empty houses and silence. This isn't fiction. This is exactly what happened in 1590 when John White returned to Roanoke Island. 117 English settlers, men, women, and children, had vanished completely. The only clue? A single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. For over 400 years, America's first mystery has haunted historians. What happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Today, we're examining every theory, every clue, and the shocking new evidence that might finally solve this centuries-old disappearance. This is Historic Mysteries Untold. Our story begins in 1584, during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. England was desperate to establish a foothold in the New World, competing with Spanish and French colonial powers. Sir Walter Raleigh, the Queen's favorite, received a charter to establish an English colony in the region we now call North Carolina. The goal was ambitious: create a permanent settlement that would serve as a base for privateering against Spanish ships and establish English claims to North America. In 1585, the first expedition arrived on Roanoke Island, a small piece of land between the mainland and the Outer Banks. The location seemed perfect, protected from ocean storms, close to fishing grounds, and inhabited by Native American tribes who might trade with the colonists. But this first colony was a disaster. The 108 men sent were mostly soldiers and gentlemen. Few knew how to farm or build. Relations with the local Algonquian tribes soured quickly after the English suspected them of stealing a silver cup and retaliated violently. Governor Ralph Lane proved to be a terrible leader, antagonizing the natives and failing to secure food supplies. When Sir Francis Drake stopped by in 1586, the starving colonists begged to go home. The first Roanoke colony lasted barely 1 year. But England wasn't giving up. In 1587, a new expedition was organized under artist and cartographer John White. This time, the plan was different. Instead of soldiers, they would send families, entire households ready to build a permanent community. On May 8, 1587, 3 ships left England carrying 117 colonists, 91 men, 17 women, and 9 children. Among them was John White's own daughter, Eleanor Dare, who was pregnant. They arrived at Roanoke Island on July 22, 1587, and immediately found troubling signs. The fort from the previous colony was abandoned and overgrown. Buildings had been dismantled. Something felt wrong. But life went on. On August 18, 1587, Eleanor Dare gave birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. It should have been a moment of celebration and hope. Instead, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The colonists arrived too late in the season to plant crops. Food supplies were dangerously low. Relations with the native tribes remained hostile after the previous colony's violence. The colonists made a desperate decision. Governor John White would sail back to England for supplies, leaving the 116 settlers behind. Before leaving, White made an agreement with the colonists. If they had to abandon Roanoke, they would carve their destination into a tree. If they were in danger, they would add a Maltese cross as a distress signal. On August 27, 1587, John White sailed away, watching Roanoke Island disappear over the horizon. He promised to return within months. He wouldn't see the island again for 3 years. John White's timing couldn't have been worse. Shortly after he reached England, Queen Elizabeth ordered every available ship to defend against the Spanish Armada. England was at war, and no vessel could be spared for a colonial rescue mission. White tried desperately to return to Roanoke. In 1588, he managed to hire 2 small ships, but their captains were more interested in attacking Spanish vessels than reaching Virginia. The ships turned back before reaching Roanoke. 2 more years passed. White watched helplessly as seasons changed, imagining his daughter and granddaughter struggling to survive. Were they hungry? Sick? Under attack? Every day that passed made their survival less likely. Finally, in August 1590, 3 years after he'd left, John White secured passage on a privateering voyage that agreed to stop at Roanoke. On August 18, 1590, Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday, White's ship approached Roanoke Island. They saw smoke rising from the island and fired cannon shots to signal their arrival. No response came. The next morning, White and a small crew rowed ashore. What they found was eerie and inexplicable. The settlement was completely deserted. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no mass grave. The houses had been carefully dismantled, with the lumber neatly stacked. The fort's palisade wall remained standing, but the area inside was overgrown with grass and weeds, suggesting years of abandonment. On one of the palisade posts, carved in large capital letters, was a single word: Croatoan. Nearby, on a tree, White found the letters Crow carved into the bark. Most importantly, there was no Maltese cross, no distress signal. According to the agreement they'd made, this meant the colonists had left voluntarily and safely. But where had they gone? And why hadn't anyone tried to send word to England?
The word Croatoan pointed to an obvious destination, Croatoan Island, about 50 miles south of Roanoke, known today as Hatteras Island. The Croatoan tribe living there had been friendly to the English, and their chief, Manteo, had actually traveled to England with earlier expeditions. John White planned to sail there immediately, but a massive storm hit the Outer Banks. His ship lost anchors and nearly wrecked. The captain refused to stay in the dangerous waters any longer and sailed for the Caribbean to make repairs. White never returned to North America. He died around 1593, never knowing what happened to his family or the colonists. So what happened to the lost colony? Over 4 centuries, historians have proposed numerous theories. Theory 1: assimilation with Croatoan tribe. The most likely explanation is that the colonists did exactly what they said. They moved to Croatoan Island and integrated with the friendly tribe there. This would explain the lack of distress signal and the orderly departure. Modern archaeological evidence supports this. Excavations on Hatteras Island have uncovered European artifacts, sword hilts, gun parts, copper rings, in contexts dating to the late 1500s, buried in Native American sites. In 2024, DNA studies of descendants from Hatteras Island tribes showed European genetic markers consistent with 16th century English colonists. The colonists may have simply become part of the Croatoan community, with their descendants still living in the region today. Theory 2: massacre by Spanish forces. England's enemy Spain had colonies in Florida and kept close watch on English activities. Some historians suggest Spanish forces attacked Roanoke, killing or capturing the colonists to eliminate the English foothold. Spanish archives contain references to a missing English colony, but no direct evidence of an attack. If Spain had destroyed the colony, they likely would have reported it as a victory. Theory 3: natural disaster. The Outer Banks are vulnerable to hurricanes and flooding. Some researchers propose the colonists were killed by a massive storm, with their bodies washed out to sea, explaining the lack of remains. However, this doesn't explain the carved messages or the systematic dismantling of the settlement. Theory 4: conflict with tribes. Relations between the English and some Algonquian tribes were hostile after the first colony's violence. Perhaps the colonists moved inland seeking better farmland and were attacked by tribes who'd been enemies of the English. In the 1600s and 1700s, later colonists reported encounters with Native Americans who had gray eyes, spoke broken English, and claimed descent from white people who lived in houses. These accounts align with the assimilation theory. Theory 5. The Drought Theory. In 1998, tree ring analysis revealed that the Roanoke region experienced the worst drought in 800 years, from 1587 to 1589, exactly when the colonists were trying to survive. Facing starvation, the colonists may have split into smaller groups, some joining the Croatoan tribe, others heading inland toward Chesapeake Bay, where they'd heard of more fertile land. Without cohesion, they left no unified record of their fate.
Modern archaeology has given us new clues. In 2012, researchers examined a map drawn by John White before his final departure. Hidden beneath a patch covering a fort symbol near the Chowan River, 50 miles inland from Roanoke, was another fort symbol. Excavations at this site, called Site X, uncovered European artifacts from the 1580s, borderware pottery, gun flints, and food preparation tools. This suggests at least some colonists moved to this inland location. Meanwhile, continued excavations on Hatteras Island keep finding more evidence. A signet ring with a lion crest, writing slates, iron rapier parts, all consistent with English colonists from the 1580s. The DNA evidence is perhaps most compelling. Genetic analysis of families in the region shows European lineages that predate later colonial settlements. The Lumbee tribe of North Carolina has long claimed descent from the lost colony, and genetic testing shows they have higher percentages of European DNA than would be expected from post-1607 mixing. Historians have also found references in later colonial records. In 1607, when Jamestown was established, Chief Powhatan told English settlers he had massacred colonists from Roanoke who had moved to the Chesapeake Bay area. Was this true, or was he trying to intimidate the newcomers? After decades of research, most historians now believe the lost colony didn't have a single fate. The colonists split into multiple groups. One group, probably including families with young children like Virginia Dare, traveled to Croatoan Island and joined the friendly tribe there. This explains the carved message and the lack of distress signal. Another group, possibly younger men seeking better farmland, traveled inland to the Chowan River area, establishing the site we now call Site X. They may have lived there for years before being killed by hostile tribes or absorbed into native communities. A third group may have traveled north to Chesapeake Bay, as the colonists had originally planned. These colonists might have been the ones Chief Powhatan claimed to have killed decades later. The brutal truth about the lost colony? It probably wasn't mysterious at all. The colonists did what desperate people do. They moved to where they could find food, water, and friendly neighbors. Some succeeded and lived long lives, their descendants walking among us today. Others died from disease, conflict, or hardship. Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America, likely grew up speaking both English and Croatoan, living in a Native American community on Hatteras Island. She probably married, had children, and died of natural causes, never knowing she would become a legend. The lost colony of Roanoke has captivated Americans for over 400 years, inspiring countless books, plays, and theories. We've turned it into a ghost story, a supernatural mystery. But the real story, revealed by archaeology, genetics, and careful historical research, is somehow more profound. The colonists didn't vanish into thin air. They survived the only way they could, by adapting, integrating, and becoming part of America's story in ways we're only now beginning to understand. When you walk the streets of North Carolina today, you might pass descendants of the lost colony, people carrying the DNA of Eleanor Dare and John White, the genetic legacy of those 117 pioneers who refused to give up. They weren't lost. They were just the first Europeans to truly become Americans, not by conquering the land, but by becoming part of it. The mystery of Roanoke reminds us that history is rarely as simple as we want it to be. Sometimes the truth is found not in dramatic disappearances, but in quiet survival. What do you think happened to the lost colony? Let me know in the comments. If you want more historical mysteries like this, subscribe to Historic Mysteries Untold. I'll see you in the next one.